In today's tutorial, what we're going to do is show Alex how to actually manipulate a shape in edit mode. And the reason we're doing this is because it allows us to make more complex shapes out of other shapes. And we're going to learn how to manipulate an object just to make a more complex object. What we've got is, if we go into tab key, we've got the point, line and face select, which does what it says. Point will select a point, line will select a line, and face will select a face. So if we actually move our point, we're actually changing our base shape, just like that. And you can restrict these in the 3 directions. So you can G and Y just to move it along the yellow line, G and Z, move it up, and of course G and X will move it across. But you've got line select, so you can actually G, move it over there, or you've got face select like that. And we could actually take this bottom face and move it down by pressing G and Z. So you've got a shape, so you've actually changed your cube into something that looks a lot different. So let's use this in some practical way to make our low poly tree. X will delete, and what we're going to do now is add in a simple mesh, and it's going to be a circle. Like the circle I've reduced to 8 vertices. It starts at 32 normally, just like that, but we're just going to use 8 vertices to make this a lot simpler. And we're also going to use a thing called Extrude. So what we'll do is go into edit mode, just like that. So we'll press the tab key and you see a load more tools appear here. And what we can do now is you can actually select your points, your lines or your faces. But we're going to select the line there. Press the Alt key, we'll select all. There's another way to select all, which is to press the A key. So E to extrude, in the Z, and we've extruded it just like that. Extrude means that it just actually moves the shape in a particular direction that you want, and it duplicates a face to make another face. So scale, move that down. GG will move things along their points. I'll just scale that down, and I'm just going to extrude again in the Z just to keep it linear. And then what I'll do is we're going to actually go on point select, all points are selected, right click and merge vertices at center, just like that. And just to make a bit more of a shape to this, I'm going to press the Alt key down and select the points there, because you've got point select up there, and we can scale this up. So we've got our simple shape there, but we want to make it a bit more interesting, and that's where the V key comes in. So if we actually go on to point select, select a point, and we press the V key, we can split vertices. Right, you can split vertices, but you can also split lines, and you can split faces if you wish. So what I'm doing quickly and easily is just moving these points around by pressing the V key, which splits them. To actually move them individually, you can press the G key, but that's our basic shape. So I'm just going to actually pop out of edit mode by pressing the tab key once again, and I'm just going to duplicate these. Right, on here you've got tweak, but you've also got a thing called box select, but you make things appear by holding down the left mouse button, and you'll see that there's lots of things hidden under things. So I've got this here. I'm just going to duplicate this by pressing Shift and D, G and Z, and Shift and D, G and Z, Shift and D, G and Z. And as you can see, we've got all these circles, and I've got one over one, but let's just move that up there. So that doesn't look much like a tree. Shift and D, G and Z, maybe one more. So what I'm going to do is actually join these all together. But as you can see, these lines all go up in the same direction. So I'm going to select that one and rotate on the Z, just to actually offset some of these. Rotate Z. And make it so none of them are actually lined up. So we've got all our objects here. Let's make them one object. So we've got box select there, and we can select them all like that. right click and join. So now we've got something that resembles a tree. Not really. So we'll go into the edit mode by pressing the tab key, and what we'll do is select the very top point just there. And we've got a thing called proportional editing, and this is on the influence ring. So if you actually hit this little target, what we can do is we can press the S key and scale. We've got an influence ring that's actually controlled by the mouse wheel, so you can move it in and out. So I'm just going to move it to about there, and then I'm just going to scale this down. And of course the influence ring now works on our image. I'm just going to select the bottom and scale, because I'm going to reduce the influence ring and just give it a bit of randomness. G, rotate, just to give it a bit more shape. And as you can see, the influence ring actually has different effects on our object, but quickly and easily we've made a tree. And if we give it a colour, which is just a simple green, we've made ourselves a tree. Right, so back into edit mode, press the tab key, and this could do with an actual trunk. So let's just make a simple trunk. Back out of edit mode, add object, add mesh, and a cylinder. Right, the cylinder, we can make this just 8 faces, just like the actual tree itself. Scale it down, scale it up, scale it down again. And then, of course, we can go into edit mode. So I'm just going to hide the tree for a minute. H will hide our tree. So we've got our simple trunk object here. I'm just going to scale it in the Z, just like that. So let's use edit mode and make this a more realistic tree. We'll go on line select, and we've got a thing called Control and R, which will make a loop cut. You make a loop cut, and then if you roll your mouse wheel, you can actually make different shapes like that. As you can see, it makes it just like that, and if we right click, it then fixes them. So with this selected, what we can do is actually shape this to make our trunk. So if we went on to line select, press the Alt key and selected, we can scale this up. As you can see, we've got an influence ring still applied, so I'm just going to shut that down, scale, scale in the X, so I'm changing the shape of my trunk. And what I'm going to do is just grab this ring here by pressing the Alt key down and selecting, and I'd like to move it to one side, G and Y, just to give my tree that little bit of a G and Y, that kind of tree shape that you'd get. Alright, simple colour. We're going to actually make a new colour, and we'll call this brown, which is the orange made dark, which of course makes a brown. So we've got a trunk. Alt and H will make our tree reappear. Select the actual trunk, select the branches, and right click and join them up together. And there you have it. You've got yourself a simple low poly tree. And as before, Shift and D will duplicate, or Control Z, undo. If we press Alt and D, it will actually duplicate or make a copy of our tree, but it's only using the same geometry. So if we take one part of our tree, for instance this face here, and GG, you'll see it alter on all trees. What it doesn't affect is the actual scale of an object. So you can actually scale these up. So even that's still the same tree. If we actually select this point, we can just G and alter all trees in our scene. And what we can do with these is actually rotate them in the Z so they don't look identical. Rotate in the Z, And this is how people make massive forests in games and of course in their scenes, because they're using a duplicate of the same tree. Hope you enjoyed this quick tutorial which actually showed how to make a more complex tree using edit mode. Join me on the next tutorial where we'll be shaping things to make a boxed out cabin, and we're going to actually cover a thing called blocking out. Bye for now.